Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Jenny White.
Guess what's happening right now?
You're being infiltrated by those dirty Russians because of your globalist.
I have 16 FBI officers in my front yard right now. No, we're actually live on Rumble.
Hey, nice.
And our viewer numbers are growing because people can actually see what we're doing.
Good.
Well, honestly, I'm so frustrated with them, and they did finally email me back, but then they never gave me the answer. So I'm going to have to email them back again and go, well, I'm glad you told me this, but that's not the answer to my problem.
Well, I got a little surprise for you, and it's not,
no.
It's not. Remember my whole meme series I did on you a while back in our group? I thought I'd throw that up there. And it's not, there's no coincidence that you're almost wearing the same colors here. That's not a coincidence.
Have I ever said how much I hate you?
Hey, I got some good stuff rolled out, getting ready to roll out on the Jenny the Gray meme.
Oh God, please don't.
Yep, they're coming.
I'm too old. My heart may not take it.
They're coming.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we're waiting for our viewers to get on this morning. So I wanted to mention a couple of things. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you this morning. This was kind of interesting. I'll share this one too, just briefly. So our friend James Lankford, no, well, actually, this is a good one. So hang on just one second. All right, there it is. Okay, so our friend James Lankford actually. So apparently, here's what happened. So he's a part of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. And apparently Secretary Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray just did not show up. They're just like, screw it. I'm out. So, what difference does it make? Steph says, our friend. Yes, our friend. Our friend. But so he called them out, and I'm like, okay, well, how about like putting him in jail or something?
Yeah,
isn't that probably better than just going, hey, stop that?
And where's this call out been the last 4 years?
Well, and there's a point there. So that's one.
Let's get real tough. Hey, let's get real tough when the entire scope of everything is changing to the other side. Now let's get real tough. Right at the very end.
I did have a smidge of the same reaction. I'm like, wow, okie dokie. Where was that tough man demeanor under Biden? But then there's another one that I want to show you this morning. So let me
give you a reminder. Where was that tough guy when he was interviewing Comey about lying on the whole Russia hoax? And when Comey admitted he was leaking the documents to his professor buddy, where was that toughness at, James?
I think you just called James out. So now it's a call out. Now it's like a echoing call out. We're just calling everybody out. Okay, so we're gonna call Ryan Walters out. Okay, so here's our call out for Ryan Walters this morning. Schoolhouse limbo. How low will educators go to get better grades? So I'm just gonna flip down here for you. No notice in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, a similar assessment revamp unfolded this summer, but with a controversial twist. State leaders in Oklahoma didn't inform school districts or families that they had lowered the bar for testing before releasing the test results in August.
Yeah, and we've talked about that multiple times, that bar dropping. But not to defend Ryan or hammer Ryan, but I mean, I thought it was going to go the other way. I thought we wanted to raise the bar, make it, make that academic side more important. I mean, I'm just surprised he did, that was lowered without real transparency there.
Yeah, so we've already lost 2 viewers on Rumble, probably because I called out the golden boy, Ryan Walters. Too bad, however. So this is ridiculous. So what they basically did is they lowered the cut scores. And so now the test result, it's going to look like our proficiency rates went up. Yeah. When it didn't. We're not doing anything different, but it looks like our proficiency rates went up under him because he changed the cut scores. There has to be something. Now, I'm going to say this. That's simply unethical. I will just say this.
Does that, lowering the bar, does that affect all 3 levels of that testing, like elementary, junior, and high school? Or is it just one set of them, or do you know?
Oh, they can't get their agenda through if you raise the bar. Keep calling the Bush boy out. I will, Shelley. I will. Yeah, this is it's really despicable because parents are going to think, oh, hey, my kid's proficiency is going up or the skills proficiency is going up, and it's not. You just lowered the cut scores on the testing. And I still have to figure out one thing that really Ryan has done other than create controversy so that he can get his nose in front of Trump. But I mean, if there's something else, I'm happy to say, no, you're right, but I don't see it. Then we have another thing. Our friend Maria is actually suing Ryan Walters. Really? And she's suing them because she has a client that's a grandmother who's raising her 2 sons, and they've both been bullied so badly in public schools, and they've tried to work with the OSDE to get this stopped, and they tried to work with the school that they were in, and he's been too busy out being on talk shows and talking about how, and then this was another one that just killed me. So he records a prayer and then tells schools that they need to broadcast that.
Yeah. Well, when I ran for school board,
not okay with that.
Yeah, the horror stories that I heard on bullying. I mean, I literally had one family, Jenny. I helped them. I spent a lot of time with them, and I was just a candidate, but no one else would help them. We literally just devised a plan to file police reports, like actual police reports on the bullying, and then we got enough of those that made a little bit of a controversy, and then we got the kid, just literally transferred the kid out of the school to another school.
Because
that's what we had to do.
The school won't do it. She says here, the School Safety and Bullying Act has a lot of hoops schools are supposed to adhere to when they have a bullying report, and all of the bullying complaints I get from parents. And when I look at very few of them are being followed.
Yeah.
We tried to work with the school. I sent some cease and desist letters. I pointed out some of the things that they weren't doing consistent with their obligation. Nothing. And so she's just like, heck with it. Yeah. This parent we have to go somewhere with this. These kids can't keep. One of the boys, literally, I think if I remember this correctly, maybe Maria's on, I don't know. If I remember this correctly, one of the boys had maybe even a fractured eye orbit and a full black eye. So it's not like your mother wears army boots. That's not that kind of bullying. This is physical bullying. The kids were actually injured at the school. The school wouldn't do anything. OSDE hasn't been doing anything. I just want to know, what are you doing? Ryan, what are you doing? I just give me one thing that doesn't have to do with increasing your public output. That's, your media profile. That's all I want to know. Okay, so I will stop for now. Steph says, when do the people stop believing government statistics because they always lie? I'd have to agree with that. All right. Well, so this morning let's get right to it since we have a nice audience now this morning. Hopefully it'll keep growing. We have, how you and I are always trying to play the disinfectant, right? I mean, we're always trying to put sunshine where there isn't often sunshine and not up somebody's skirt. We're just trying to do it for everybody in Oklahoma. So our guest today is an attorney, and I met him through our friend Sandra Trawick, and he's found something that is like super disturbing, but it's so overwhelming. I can't really understand it. So I asked John on today. His name's John Baca. He's an attorney, and I've asked him on today to talk about what he's found because I think none of us are really going to like this. So I'm going to bring John on. Good morning, John. How are you today?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Michael's apparently wonderful because he's already made fun of me this morning. So this is good. We're all wonderful here. So tell me kind of give me the overview before we get into the slides and we really kind of, attack this. What is the overview here?
Okay, so when I started learning about all of the green energy plays that's coming through, I'm a real estate attorney by trade, so that's kind of my tool set.
Oh, yeah.
The county records and just kind of mapped out where all the leases were in my county. I'm down here in Hughes County in southeast Oklahoma, right in the middle of the southeast quarter, basically, of the state. And it's a pretty big county. I mean, it's not huge, but we had 42,000 acres of wind leases from 42 people. So as you can imagine, the average.
What? Now say that again.
Yeah. So there are 42 known leases in Hughes County. There's one solar, and it's about 1,300 acres. Okay. But 42 people leased 42,000 acres combined. And that's before anybody really knew about it. And that led me down.
Does that seem like a lot to you, or is it just me? I mean, you're a real estate attorney. Does that seem like a lot or not?
I mean, that's an impressive amount from 42
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. Okay. So you were looking up the leases. And so what did you find?
Well, found a multitude of things.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Before they started hiding stuff, basically, I think that the tactics they pull nowadays are aggregating leases till they get 15, 20, 30 of them, or right-of-ways, whatever they're after. They'll bundle them up no matter what day they're signed, and then they'll dump them in the county clerk's records. That way, nobody can kind of
tease them apart.
Yeah, exactly. Started realizing.
Okay, let's stop right there because if you've ever watched, I try to get everything down on the lowest level because if people don't really understand it from the bottom, then they can't explain it and we can't stop it, right? Sure. So then you think there's something nefarious. I'm just asking. You think there might be something nefarious going on just because you saw all of these bundles getting dumped into the county clerk's office at one time?
I think when something is happening to you in secret, it's probably not going to be a good thing. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to check and make sure that's what you were saying because I don't know anything about, leases or looking up stuff at the clerk. I'm not.
Well, traditionally in like an oil and gas play, you'll have landmen come to town. They'll be at the county clerk's office, jumping all over each other, getting in your way. Good guys, but they're messy, but they make themselves known, and it creates sort of the capitalistic, this company's offering this. What are you going to do on this? And neighbors talking to neighbors. This is completely different. They come in, they pick out the 1%. They approach them in private. I don't know what they tell them. their leases are really, really, really unfriendly to landowners. So they must be giving them a pretty good line. And part of it is a non-disclosure agreement. So, I mean, there is no more capitalism. It's, whether you got a lease or you don't, because if you are the lucky one that has the lease, then you're at least going to get paid, and the surrounding landowners' values are just going to plummet.
Mm-hmm. Let me back up again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be so simplistic. Sure. I'm not sure how many people understand an NDA. Can you explain an NDA?
A non-disclosure agreement. It's a binding covenant within a contract that says you're not allowed to talk about it.
So if I get into a situation where I'm leasing, they come to me and they want to have my property for a windmill, let's say, mm-hmm. and they give me a lease agreement and I read it. If I sign it and then I go to you, John, and say, I don't know, I think this is a problem, look at this, then I can be held liable for that. Like I'm legally liable for telling you something that was in the lease.
Breach of contract. Yep.
Okay. Yikes.
Yep. It's effective.
So you had these people coming in and dumping all of these. And you said it was one solar, but the rest of them were wind.
Hughes County actually, they haven't done that yet. I do suspect that our company that's doing it is RWE. It's a German company. Back in May, they spun off their American side, so they kind of prop it up, looking like it's American, but their parent company is Consolidated Edison, rebranded to RWE Renewables.
Yeah, but so many of them are like that. I know you can verify that. They're not from Oklahoma.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So they come to town. Let me back up. In Hughes County, they didn't really do that. They did the normal get a lease, file it within a couple days, and on and on and on.
Okay.
I'll give them that at least. But now it appears that people are still leasing, but they are not being disclosed. I think they are much lesser in number than it was before, but I can't tell for sure because they're not of record. Another thing that they seem to have done to cover their tracks is they have your local electric co-op. They seem to be acquiring the right of ways. I can't guarantee that, but it's the same tactics. Whatever your electric co-op is, mine's PEC. I don't think they've done it, but PSO, they've done a lot of it. They'll go get a lot of right-of-ways all across the county in different spots, just checkerboard pattern all over. And they'll dump them all on the same day. So there'll be 20, 30, 40 right-of-ways acquired, or it looks like it's acquired. They really acquired it over a month or two, but they're recorded all the same day. Of particular, I guess, clarity of me saying that would be Cole County. I think they had like 9 pages of nothing but right-of-ways filed all the same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
9 pages. How many what's the registry on one page? How many?
So I use OK County Records for most of my online research, and that's about 20 a page.
Oh, good God. Really?
There's a lot.
And you have no idea what they're acquiring these easements for.
I got a pretty good guess.
Okay. So what do you think's going on here?
That is going to be either the electric transmission lines or the carbon sequestration pipelines, or one of those slides you have is the hydrogen corridors.
Okay. Do you want me to flip through here to see?
That one right there.
Whoops. Which one?
There, those two are hydrogen corridors. This is, you can find this on ODOT website. Now, this map in particular, I noticed this last night, is really, really bizarre. If you go to the second one, it's easier to show you.
Hold on. I'm trying to. Hey, Michael, how do you make them look bigger again?
Well, you're in the presentation?
Yeah, I'm in the presentation.
Oh, you can try that Control Plus, but I don't know if that'll work in that.
Yeah, it didn't work.
I'll have to check on my side.
Okay. So are we at this one, John? Is that what you want?
So that's Hughes County. That's the 42,000 acres from 42 people. That one's not the highest.
John, that's half your county.
Oh yeah.
Well, how can that be?
Yeah, and there's a prevailing mantra that you'll hear from county to county from generally the commissioners board, and it's, we don't have the power to regulate private landowners, what they do with it. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's true, but you know, they don't have the right to, I mean, it's a nuisance to use your land as a detriment to mine, and vice versa. So, you know, the spot fence, that whole thing. So if I went and started a landfill purposefully on the fence line of my neighbor, you know, that you can expect to probably get sued for that. And just kind of a reasonable human being standard, I think. You know, I don't do too much nuisance law, but it comes up.
I thought you were going to say I'm not really a standard normal human, but then
Yeah, I'm
okay.
definitely not that either.
Okay, so now do you know what they're doing with all of this property?
I mean, that's all wind leases. So,
It is. So you know that these are all wind leases.
yes. But the wind leases, the leases themselves are kind of nefarious because, and while I think most reasonable human beings reading the contract, and those contracts are like 70 pages long, 50, 60, 70 pages long. So they'll wear you out. But most people will catch the big glowing like NDA and stuff like that. But there are like three or four different types of easements set forth in this these leases that Hughes County's doing. And I mean, I don't know what happens at the negotiating table, but if you sign it as is when it comes to you, it looks like they themselves, the companies, after you sign up, can grant right-of-ways and easements to whomever they feel appropriate in terms of producing wind energy, which is everybody in the entire world. I mean, it's the most broadly written easement grant I've ever seen. And they have their own lingo. So most people that are naturally geared toward, you know, they've done their own pipeline right-of-way negotiations in their oil and gas site, stuff like that. It's not like that at all. They've created their own lingo. Nobody knows it but them.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
Yep.
So do you think that's why all these leases are being signed, is because the people just don't even know what the heck they're talking about?
No, for the most part, I think most of them are being signed by absentee landowners, out of state landowners.
Okay, so people who own the property but don't live there.
Correct.
You know, we had talked one time on another show, and I think it was with Sandra, that we really needed to, because the deadline for bills is coming up really fast. We need to find some way to write a bill that says you, as an absentee landowner, you can't do something that's going to affect other people's property.
I mean, ideally, and that really actually happens a lot in small towns or older towns, rural towns, where people will go in and buy, you know, tax properties or sheriff's, right, or, you know, what, foreclosures, whatever. And they are I mean, they're continuing blight because they're, you know, they live down in Texas or wherever, somewhere far flung, and they just look for that mailbox money. And meanwhile, the grass is 4.5 foot tall, and people that are living in there, they are tearing up things around them, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we actually, when I was the mayor here in Luther, we had the same problem. Absentee landowners who would just buy a house at a sheriff's sale and not even do anything with it and let it rot and fall down, and then we'd have to go, you know, tear it down. So yeah, and put a lien on their property. So I don't even know why they do it, because I'm not really certain what it buys them, because they still have to pay property tax on it once they buy it. So I can't even figure out why you would want to be a absentee landowner.
Well, the difference is when you and I own a house in a town like Luther or whatever, and we don't mow our grass, we can have criminal assessments put on us.
Yeah, that's true. Ordinances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, we can be fined and, theoretically you could be put in jail. Now, LLCs can't. I think that I personally, I think that's what the problem is that there's no skin in the game. So long as you have an Inc., LLC, Co., something following whatever entity you're doing whatever you want in, you're invincible. The people with Purdue, I mean, they destroyed an entire generation and a half with OxyContin, and nothing happened to them. They lost a couple.
Yeah. All right. So when you went out and you found all of these leases, and so what's this next slide?
That one right there keeps disappearing. I think it's a national interest energy needs study. I'm pretty sure are the words associated with that particular map. You can see down there in the corner, the 10 GW, I think that's gigawatts, and AC is probably just alternating current. And then those ones below it, you can see DC at the end.
Right.
For direct current, but they're also how they, it's like a high-tech modulator of how they can direct the energy back and forth using some type of switch or something. I'm not an electrician, by the way. I don't know if you can tell that, but the reason the wind facilities are becoming, and for that matter, solar, are becoming more viable, not that they're commercially viable, but more viable than they were, is because we've got a large player in the game that's invested in this HVDC technology, and it's able to store and redirect and transmit over greater distances faster and more efficiently. It's just a better pipeline for the energy itself than alternating current. And that's, I mean, it eventually leads into what the subject matter of what you brought me on here for is, but it wraps into this thing that I only knew about probably in, I don't know, August, maybe September. And it's the NIETC corridor. And it's an 18-mile wide, it's anywhere from 6 to 18 miles wide. And I think it's probably better shown on one of the orange looking slides. Not that one, that one right there. Yeah. So if you believe your maps, which I wouldn't at this point in time, supposedly this NIETC corridor is going to be that one that stretches all the way from all the way across the Panhandle, all the way down into Arkansas, where it terminates randomly, and that's not what happens. It continues to go up.
Correct.
And well, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be high voltage direct current, most likely.
So I'm so glad we had you on today, because yesterday we had Chad McDougall, who is the chairman of the Oklahoma Petroleum Alliance. Mm-hmm. And he talked to us about this national interest corridor, transmission corridor, and explained to us that Oklahoma produces way more energy than we need. But because of the Inflation Reduction Act, all these wind companies are getting taxpayer dollars out the wazoo, and then they're also being subsidized by private owners because they're all LLCs, like you talked about, right? Limited liability companies that they've set up on taxpayer dollars, and then they're getting investors, which are making their money off of the tax dollars that are going into these projects. And the wind companies aren't having to put a dime out of their own money. It's all taxpayer funded money. And all of this is happening because the Eastern Seaboard needs more energy than they have, because they don't have enough clean energy like natural gas to be able to use. So they're having, because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the EPA standards that are monitoring CO2 emissions, they can't use oil and gas or oil, petroleum. So they have to get their electricity from us. So we're being used, and our country is being decimated here in Oklahoma, not even for Oklahomans.
I say that every single time when I go talk to people. Not one electron or whatever of electricity stays here. Not one. I mean, if it made our bills 40% cheaper, right? You don't have me doing the research that I've been doing. 30%, I'm probably still not doing. 20, I mean, I'd probably still take it and sleep happy at night. But none of it. We don't get to keep any of it. And actually, I called one of the company reps that randomly showed up to a county commissioners meeting on
Randomly.
Tuesday. Yeah. Well, they're not on the agenda, but like, oh, we've been around, just gaslighting.
Right.
I couldn't pin them down no matter what I did as to where the energy goes. It was described as, well, it's kind of like a 4-year-old. It just kind of goes wherever it wants to, wherever it needs to, path of least resistance. And it's like, oh, okay. But does it go into the NIUTC corridor? Huh?
Yeah, that's lightning. What
Yeah.
what he was describing is lightning. That's not something in a transmission line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I couldn't even pin him down to a cardinal direction. Does it go south? Does it go north? He wouldn't answer.
Wow.
He was either an attorney or somebody that's been to law school that's not a practicing attorney yet. So he was an attorney.
Oh my goodness. So what you found conservation easements. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay, so talk to us about this.
So whenever they come through and do whatever they want to do, because that is exactly what's going to happen, because they were supposed to engage in local stakeholders and be the good guys and give notice and not, and per your document that you showed me, or whatever website we were on before we went on.
Oh, yeah, right.
Department of Fish and Wildlife, their regs state that you need to, number one, avoid at all costs. Number two, I don't remember number two, and number three, mitigate. And a good resource for that is actually the Nature Conservancy, which consequently is one of the mitigation banks. But personally, I think they've been doing mitigation banking for a lot longer than kind of the activity that I'm describing today.
Well, so if you're watching and you're interested in this, so go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Google conservation banking, and it actually tells you what it is. And honestly, John, I was really kind of, oh my gosh, it just sounded like an absolute scam when I first read it. So if you go down here and you look, it tells you what the process is. Any landowner can do this. If the service gives conceptual approval of your property as a conservation bank, you'll need to cooperate on the development of a conservation bank agreement between you, the service, and possibly other government agencies if you are seeking credits for resources regulated by other agencies.
Yep.
That sounds like crap.
Yeah, it's I'm like, yeah, that's where your tax dollars go to somebody's pocket real fast.
This is, and they talk about how you do it. Find a field office, and there was something on here. So basically what they do is if you have land, now check me up if I'm wrong. If you have land and you want to put something, or the government wants to put something on your property, but you have a snail darter or a fill in the blank, something that's a protected animal or plant species or whatever, you can apply for mitigation credits. So we're not going to worry about the animal or the plant. That just kind of gets left over, but the landowner gets to get money for, okay, so I'm lost. Explain this. Andrea says it's a scam. Anything that is this hard to explain is a scam. I completely agree, Andrea.
So the theory behind it is that for every acre we are going to destroy, and we are going to destroy it, we have an equal amount of one credit or a 2 per 1 or 3 per 1 or 5 per 1, whatever the particular environmentalist calls for in that situation. That is going to stay just like it is. There's not going to be any activity on it, functionally none anyway. No commercial activity, no farming, no agriculture, which is why I'm kind of jazzed up about it, for perpetuity. And so
For perpetuity.
yeah, this one in particular.
Like what? Until Jesus comes back and the world is destroyed. I mean, what does that mean?
That is right. For perpetuity, it will never ever be anything other than whatever it is at that snapshot in time. And they kind of like, they might go in and plant native grass, or I mean, it just depends on what they're looking for that particular thing that they are trying to offset the damage that will be done.
So you could never farm it again. It would never be arable farmland.
Can't spray it. Basically, what you can do on it is walk on it, hunt on it, and look at things on it, and then basically leave. It does remain land in your name. It's just, it would be difficult to sell it because you've already extracted the major value out of it, and it would be subject to that conservation easement. Now, conservation easements have been around for quite some time. People that are familiar with the USDA, NRCS, FSA offices in their towns or whatever, they are a way that you can, kind of dedicate some land, and it's not, and those aren't necessarily in perpetuity. They can be, but they have like a 10-year, 15-year, 25-year, 50, something like that. And you can basically offset your taxes with them, is how it normally works. Now, these appear to be straight cash in kind. And there have, in my area in particular, Hughes County, which it's right where all that, if you kind of zoomed in on Oklahoma, or if you can just see Oklahoma there and you see a big splotch of green, it's right there on the eastern edge of that. And there appear to be tidings that a lot of construction are going to be in our area, and we have a lot of threatened or endangered species, and we've got bald eagles everywhere. We've got multiple rivers and creeks, and South Canadian minnows and owls and bats, and the burrowing beetle, and I mean we've got a lot. We've got a lot of. It's the Great Valley off the land before time, and because they're going to go. I don't really know what they're going to do through here. It appears they're going to do windmills, but I'm not totally convinced of that. But I kind of think it's going to be hydrogen at this point. But they're going to be able to do what they want because this project is so massive in scope. It's unimaginably massive. For instance, there's going to be a second leg or a second pipe, water pipeline from Atoka Lake to Oklahoma City. That is a 72-inch pipe, and most of you don't have really a frame of reference of that, but you could basically drive a full-size truck into it. I mean, that's a very, very large pipeline. Most of your natural gas pipelines are 36-inch or smaller. I think the Keystone is mainly 42-inch, and that's huge. This thing is 72 inches, and and it's going across basically half the state, and it requires 700 mitigation credits. This thing is 28,000. That's the scope of the project.
Okay, so let's back up because I'm so confused, and I do want to catch what Andy said here. Andy said county commissioners have a very special power. They do have the authority. They must use coordination. And then she says, Obama built the climate hubs. Oklahoma has one to churn out green data. And I do remember something about climate hubs, but that's about as much as I remember. Denise says, is conservation banking connected to the natural asset companies who want to own the intangible natural processes like photosynthesis?
So this harkens back to the Kyoto Protocol, and I'm pretty sure this would have been the Chicago Board of Environmental Exchange had that not, for some reason, gone defunct and bankrupt somehow. I mean, I kind of understand how nobody was trading on it, but this is Kyoto Protocol 5.0.
Really? Well, for those people who don't know what Kyoto Protocol is, you mean the Kyoto Agreement for green energy, wasn't it carbon credits?
Yeah, I mean, it's been decades ago at this point. But it was
that was one of the first things that came out, like Andy said, under Obama.
I think it's further back than that. It was an international accord, kind of like the Paris Accord or whatever. But I mean, that one too was non-binding. But this one, it was especially non-binding. It was just kind of I mean, I don't even know, kind of you do the right thing and I'll do the right thing, and nobody ever did anything about it. But,
okay, so here's let me just share this tab because I think this will. So this was the Kyoto Protocol, and it says was an international treaty named for the Japanese city, which was adopted. Oh yeah, it goes back to 1997, that aimed to reduce the emission of gases that contribute to global warming. In force since 2005, the protocol called for reducing the emission of 6 greenhouse gases in 41 countries plus the European Union to 5.2% below 1990 levels during the commitment period of 2008 to 2012. It was widely hailed as the most environmental treaty ever negotiated, but I thought that Trump, when he was president, refused to sign it for the U.S. Can somebody help me? Wasn't that true or not?
I thought that was Paris Accord.
The Paris Accord. He refused to sign that. You're correct. Yes. Okay. So I guess, but then this says here, the context is the Paris Agreement.
Yep.
This is honestly, if we're sitting here, John, and we cannot make heads or tails of this, what is going on?
Money.
Money. Amen. Amen, brother. Money.
So these, once you exchange your land to be put into a conservation easement, it appears that they are, each individual acre that you put up or is accepted or I guess is used as mitigation function, it's anywhere from $38,650 per acre to $60,000 per acre.
For the mitigation credit.
Correct.
What?
Yeah.
How can that be? And where is this money? No, I almost said, where is this money coming from? That was like super stupid. Oh gosh, it's clearly being printed.
Mm-hmm. I am almost certain the function of Justice 40 is where the money's at. I think it dropped about 15 days ago or something. Whenever Elon Musk was announced on TV, and I don't watch the news because it gets my blood pressure way too high.
Oh yeah, amen.
Suddenly it's like, oh, Elon Musk is 17% richer, which is arbitrary and weird to hear anyway. It was like, why on earth? Why is that a news snippet? Whatever. And then, like, in my email, because I've signed up as part of this research deal, all these different federal agencies start saying, we've got grant money. And I mean, it hit, like, my phone just goes ballistic with email alerts, and they're all from government agencies that have a bunch of money now. And it was Justice 40.
And again, this is coming from the Inflation Reduction Act, right?
Yes, I would assume it has to be. So and part of, and I actually heard this at a meeting over in McIntosh County. Went down there and saw those guys, and they had a man there from Louisiana, and he was just up to visit his, getaway spot here in Oklahoma. And he was, I don't think he's doing it anymore, but at some time in the fairly recent past, he was a loan broker or a packager for wind farms. And he said the number one thing that got it killed was environmental justice assessment, which means is whatever activity you're doing or about to do, is it going to negatively affect people that don't have, across the board, statistically, the area, is it full of people without higher education that are, below the poverty line? Food and housing appear to statistically be a relevant issue in their area. Basically, poor, dumb, broke rednecks. Are you going to just steamroll over them, right? And so if you look at where all this activity is going on, I mean, that's where it's hitting the hardest, is right here in those areas. Only this time, they flipped the script. This time, they're doing us a huge favor by putting in the windmills and the transmission capabilities and the solar panels and paying off all the 1% people that would ordinarily kind of defend the lower classes just by default, because they would sue to protect themselves, therefore creating a bubble around everybody else. They've taken those out of the equation, and now they're going to steamroll everybody, and they're going to say, and we did such a good job, and our environmental justice assessment is going to just nail it to the wall, because without us coming through, they could have lost grid stability because they're so broke and dumb. Even though I've lived here 36 out of 37 years, and until this year, we never had any amount of power surges or lights flickering or dimming, or not even one time was I without electricity, even though we got hit with 2 presidentially declared disasters of tornadoes. This year alone, the same month, was never without electricity longer than 24 hours, except for one time in 2001 when we got hit by a giant ice storm. And now we're at risk out here in Broketown because we're so dumb and broke. And therefore, the windmills will save us.
Oh, my word.
Justice 40. Creme de la creme.
Well, I in all honesty, I have to hope, I think all of us have to hope that Trump will clamp down on some of this. But I think, from what you've said, Michael, that he's not going to, because like with Lutnick, he's all into the, cashless society and this kind of thing. And there have been others. You're kind of concerned he's not going to back off on the green agenda.
Yeah. I mean, he may do something like we had that comment about the Paris Accord. He may pull out of that again or something, but there's so much money. I mean, it's going to be real easy, real quick, real fast. I mean, does he come in? Does he literally get rid of the Inflation Reduction Act? I mean, are those kind of things going to happen within a short amount of time? I mean, we're going to be able to tell really quick, Jenny, how serious all that stuff really is. But there's so much money to be made. There's so much money, and I just cannot believe the magnitude, John, of that, just the magnitude of the NDAs on these deals.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm pretty sure on the back end of these things, because you don't make people that own 1,000 acres contiguous be quiet unless the threat is jail or death, or the promise is a pot load of money at the end, right?
Yeah.
And most of these guys have the ability to call out in Western Oklahoma to somebody and say, hey, these things really pay. And they're all going to say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. These things do not pay like they say. So why have they remained silent? There's a lot of money on the back end of this deal.
So you're saying, okay, so let me go back, John, because I hate to be obtuse about this, but I'm not getting it. So that the wind turbine companies come in and buy up all of this property, and we saw how much of Hughes County has been doing that, or they sign leases. I'm sorry, I apologize. So that, because I can see you. So the wind turbines companies come in, they talk to the owners of the property, they get them to sign a lease for wind or solar. But then after they sign the lease, the landowners can't say how much they're getting or what's going on their property. And the easements attached to the lease allow that easement to be open to everybody, and their dog can then come in on that lease, is what you're saying. And then if you put a wind turbine on a piece of property that has some kind of valuable resource, then you can petition the Fish and Wildlife Service or the National Nature Conservancy for a conservation mitigation credit, so they can still do the project, but then they get paid for this.
No.
Okay. Help me.
Basically, what's happening in reality are people that have gone through this before. They're kind of coming in and snapping up land in the areas that the mitigation credits will be available. They're maxing out, I think, what is known as highest and best use, which is like a way of commercially using a property to its best ability, making the most money off of it, essentially. And they extract the credits and they move on to the next play. The function, so the Nature Conservancy has been in the game a long time. I don't think they're actually a bad actor. They don't appear to be. They have, and the reason I think they're not is because, one, I've talked to one of the guys there, and he was very forward with information. And in this project, there is no central repository of useful information for people to go to. I mean, it's scattered and hacked up and psychotic looking most of the time. But the Nature Conservancy has a lot of data tools. Really and truly, I encourage everybody to go to their website and just look at what they got going on in terms of their maps and their layers and their data repositories. But these other guys, they're kind of fly by night. They work the system. They go through. They drum up a 130-page document, and their dads played golf with whatever. I don't know how it really works, but functionally, they apply to the Army Corps of Engineers, the EPA, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Oklahoma Wildlife Services, and probably DEQ and one other. It's 6 in total to become a sponsor. And so once you become a sponsor, you get to apparently just pay yourself tax dollars for land that you have put into a for-profit corporation that is somehow a subsidiary of a nonprofit, and that passes IRS muster somehow.
That sounds about right.
Yep, business as usual. And
well, John, just to clarify, when we're talking about the easements, also those easements literally trump everything else that's around, right? I mean, like that's like no matter what your other property rights are, or liens or loans or anything, the easement comes first, period. That's correct?
Subject to, exactly. They are, I mean, it's impressed as a permanent covenant upon the land.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Why would you want to sign that as a landowner?
Well, I don't think people, they don't understand the power of those easements. Plus, like John just said, I mean, you're going to get a lot of money in one way or another on the back. I mean, unless you just completely have no idea what's going on, you just sign it, and then you're just completely, powerless. Maybe also there's probably people like that too, but.
I mean, I've seen some people sign some weird stuff, including those leases, but for the most part, the reason that it bugs me is it's just one step further down the line of, making us to where we're no longer can be self-sufficient. I mean,
Yeah.
basically you have some people from out of state that know the game. They come in, they snap up the land, and the people that are selling are like, man, farming wasn't that good this last couple of years. It wasn't raining, too hot, too cold. There's a million reasons to be tired of farming. And instead of working out and just humping up the last years of my life, maybe I should sell it. These guys are offering me, 20% above market rate. I can retire on this right here, right now. Not a bad deal. I mean, the kind of insidious deal is if our government were doing the right thing and giving us notice that all of this is happening instead of actively suppressing relevant information, then these people could, they could form generational wealth and have that at least as an option. They don't even know it's an option right now. Instead of, if they have 600 acres that brings them $2 million, yeah, they're retired. Their kids are probably going to have a slightly easier life. But as y'all know, money doesn't stretch as far as it used to. And whoever's buying it from them is probably going to make 12 million free and clear of the 2 million they already paid them. And they have no idea what's going on. They've already sold. It's just,
wow.
It's just not fair.
Wow.
If
John Boyce says around here, they're pushing people to sign a survey contract. The company will not be able to do anything. And in that contract is the fine print to do everything they choose.
Yeah. That's, now those surveys that they do are extremely complicated. So that kind of sounds like that you're onto something. I didn't pick up your name on the message that popped up, but you're onto something.
John Boyce Stanley.
Yeah, John Boyce Stanley. Yeah. You should look very closely. Look at your county, go talk to your county clerk. They might not know what you're talking about, or they might, but have them look for a conservation easement. Actually, one of the documents is a conservation easement. And I can tell you maybe what it might look like. That would be probably helpful.
Well, why don't you tell people what it looks like?
Okay, so it's going to be a document that more than likely starts off with the word easement. I doubt it's going to say conservation easement, but somewhere in the first paragraph, it will most likely have like a 14 character long weird bunch of acronyms and words that don't make a lot of sense, like the UJWT in lieu fee stream, and it'll probably actually say ILFS USACE, because that's the Corps of Engineers acronym. Conservation easement of blah blah blah, Canadian Stream D. It will be incomprehensibly long, and it'll say that they only had 10 days to record this of record, so they can't do well. I don't think the sponsors can kind of bank these easements up without recording them, because they have a public comment phase, which there's a lot of public comment phases going on right now that nobody knows about. And like the NIETC corridor that stretches across the entirety of the state and 18 miles wide at some points, didn't know about it until at least a month after the public comment phase had come and gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you would even find it while it's in the comment phase, unless the reason I found this was blind luck. Just stumbled onto it because I was heated about PSO and Canadian Valley and all these other guys carrying the water for this whole thing. And it ain't good enough being a monopoly. You gotta right there at the end, you gotta jab in our eye one more time. Apparently, yes. The answer is yes. Please let me continue having electricity though.
And I'm sure as an attorney, you would agree with Denise. If a document is vague and not understandable, the intent is to deceive.
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So here's the thing. Oh, yay. What do we do about this? Because I've heard Andy, I saw so Andy says the county commissioners do have the power, but it says in NEPA. I'm not sure what NEPA is, Andy.
That's the end study before they decide where the corridor is going to go. I think I've heard NEPA a bunch of times.
Okay. So
Environmental Protection Act, probably.
So the problem is the people that we elect to help us keep our liberty and maintain our liberty are not helping us do that, is the way I'm understanding
They
this.
sold us down the river.
Do what?
They sold us down the river.
Okay. So what can we do? I mean, what literally, what is there that we could do to make this cease and desist?
Coalesce into a large group and demand to be heard, and don't accept no for an answer, that you will be heard. It doesn't matter how many cameras from how many news sockets that don't show up, or how many of the representatives tell you you don't have the power. You just talk to your neighbors, tell them you're all on the same page, we're in this together, and let's go make sure that before this happens, they look us in the face before they, have the excuse, oh, we didn't know you didn't want this to happen, because that's what's going to happen at the end of the day.
So maybe Andy says Karen Bud Fallon is an attorney who knows this like the back of her hand. You might reach out to her or reach out to Andy and see if they can put you together, because it sounds like you guys would be a force to be reckoned with, to be able to help people figure out what to do. Because if our elected officials aren't helping us, we're going to help ourselves. And it would be good to have, attorneys who could be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Andy says, I can reach out to you with all of these folks. So
Wonderful.
Andy, why don't you text me? Then I will text you John's text, his phone number, and you guys can get that worked out. So after the show, make sure you do that, or now, whatever works for you. And I will get you guys in touch so you can get them in touch. Okay. So, and I think what Andy says is correct about this too. The elected officials are being guided toward this. We said,
they don't know. They probably just don't know the extent of what's actually going on.
I reached out to a representative who I'm not going to talk about right now. I mean, he and I are going to have some conversations on this later. So I don't want to, do anything to muck that up. But he was one of the ones that actually went to the carbon capture site in Scheidler. And so he's an elected official, and he was there. And he had no idea what was going on. And he didn't even really understand the problems with it until I sat down, I didn't even sit down with him. I kind of grabbed him and just let him have all the information I could get out in like 10 minutes about what was going on. He wasn't even really clear why we didn't want this and why this was a problem, and how, particularly CO2 pipelines are getting built and nobody knows where they are. And if something happens to one of those and there's a rupture, it will kill people. There's not a question about it. It will kill people and animals anywhere around it. And there's no mitigation for that. The county commissioners don't even know it's out there. So how are they going to help coordinate volunteer fire departments or anything else to try to be able to protect the citizens there? Because like you said, John, all of this is being done under the darkness of night, because they don't want us figuring out what's going on to make it stop. Am I about accurate on that?
Yeah, I think the only weakness they have, it certainly isn't enough money. They've got that. They've got talent. They have, they've had years of planning. If you look at that conservation mitigation, whatever it is, Terra Foundation Inc., the first page is the final instrument dated 2015. I mean, that's 9 years ago, and Lord knows how many submissions it took to get it to the final one with the Corps of Engineers. I mean, they might have been working on this since the Kyoto Protocol. I don't know.
Well, it's very clear that we've got a multi-pronged problem here that's going to take a multi-pronged approach to solve. because if you've got people who are companies, and I'm going to say this, and if you find anybody who can tell you that I'm wrong, please send them to me, because I do want to be informed and properly educated. But I've done quite a bit of research into this, and I've not found anybody who the Corporation Commission does not regulate this. The DEQ does not regulate this. The county commissioners are not regulating this. And everything that I've read about all this new green energy stuff. So it's not just the NIETC. It's not just the windmills. It's not just the solar. It's not just the carbon. It's all of it together. Governor Stitt has basically sold the state down the river in the name of big business. And he and the legislators that have been involved in this with him have been doing everything that they can to undermine responsibility for the safety of the people, because they don't want, they've called people that are concerned about this greenies, essentially, and they say, oh, greenies are crazy, and they just protest and they're not going to let us do any of this. So we need to make sure that we're not doing the regulation. We're just having very minimal regulation so that these things can take off, because these things are things that we need to do. You know, they're green energy. It brings business to Oklahoma. That's literally what Stitt says in every single piece of information that I can get. And it's never reported in Oklahoma. I have not found it reported in any Oklahoma papers anywhere. It's all in industry journals. They put it in industry journals. So if you're not in the industry, you're not getting that information, because how would you get it? I mean, how many of us read oil and gas journals?
Yeah.
And so that's where this is going. So it's been done specifically by the Stitt administration and legislators working through him and with him, under the guise that greenies are bad, and that they're going to, you know, how they do in Europe, right? And you've got, oh gosh, what's her name? The German who screams at the top of her head and she's got braids. Who is that? Thunberg. You've got her that acts like a crazy person. And so what they're saying is, we don't want these crazy people stopping business in Oklahoma. So to do that, we have to deregulate all of this stuff. Number one, so the businesses will come here. And number two, because that's the only way to make this grow is through deregulation. And so what Stitt has done then is put all of Oklahoma at risk. He's put property owners at risk. He's put citizens at risk. He's put taxpayers at risk. All of the people in Oklahoma are at risk, either physically, like if a carbon capture line breaks and spews CO2, we're all at risk for that. We'll die from that. I mean, it's absolutely, I've never been angrier with administration, but we had, you know, Governor Fallon, whatever her name was. And so we had to deal with her too, who also bowed down to the federal government and did everything that they said. So it's a uniparty, I guess. And I know I'm just spewing and going on and on and on, but nobody's protecting us. I mean, John, am I wrong about that? Who's protecting us?
Absolutely nobody's protecting us. But what I would say is that number one, the legislature and I mean, at least it's inaugural ball or whatever it is. They took donations from NextEra. If you want to track down where this is all coming from, it's NextEra. It's corporations that are actually doing this. I would pose that it's the DOE, the Department of Energy, which has never been relevant until 2021, and now it's like this sovereign powerhouse of its own, and they've got laboratories and all this next level stuff all over the place, and they're really kind of Darth Vader and into a really kind of a scary agency. And then on the other side, you have the Southwest Power Pole, which is like a quasi government agency, quasi nonprofit, quasi for-profit thing that somehow holds all of our fate in it's their whatever it is hands. So that really, DOE and Southwest Power Pool, that's where you need to be looking, because the rest of the stuff is just business as usual. But those two things need to be looked at very closely.
Well, and think about this, Jenny. It's not like this just sprung up out of the blue just in the last year. I mean, think about the years and years and years of planning that this goes to. And just to make like a point on top of John, you know, we've looked at NextEra multiple times. You know that they're returning 600+% to their investors, but that's how that government, corporate, and then filters all the way down into these local deals go. You think about how long in the works has something like the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, how long has that been in the works? Because those guys would have to know, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, this is coming. At some point, this is coming, because that's paving the way for all that subsidy into that whole side, so those guys can just make windfalls of money, because it wouldn't work if they don't get the subsidy. So it's coming all the way from those federal agencies and filtering all the way down. And who's the ultimate, you know, loser is us, the little guy, the farmer, the guy with the land who has no idea that this has been cooking in the books for 10+ years.
Well, and Andy said this a couple of times, and it's absolutely factual. And you and I, good Lord, Michael, you and I have, how many times have we raged against public-private partnerships on this show? I mean, I would think it was at this point, it's a running gag for both of us, because public-private partnerships are crap. They're taking public money, but it's like, I know Robert's going to agree with me. Robert is on here this morning. I know he's going to agree with me. Public-private partnerships are almost exactly like what we're doing with the homeschool tax credit and giving public money to citizens to put their kids in private school. Public and private should not be mixing. It absolutely should not be mixing. You should have a complete and total, utter pool of private, pool of public, and they can touch, but they cannot intermingle. And right now we have an enormous Venn diagram of public-private, where we have this whole section, huge section, where public and private are overlapping. And we've allowed this to go on because we don't understand public. Now, listen, not that you, I don't know why I'm saying that to you guys. You guys pay attention. That was like really stupid. So apologize. I apologize. But let's go over this for the people who may not get it. A private corporation, company, LLC, whatever you want to call it, it has no responsibility to a taxpayer at all. It does not have to conform to the public records, the Open Records Act. It does not have to do anything that a public entity wants it to do. And by public entity, I mean a taxpayer. I mean, John and me and you and Michael and everybody, right? I mean, it doesn't have to do that. On the other hand, a public entity, whatever that is, has to, according to the law, although, John, I know that we know that the law means very little today, right? Only people who want to follow it. But according to the law, anything using public money has to provide all of their records and be open to the public. So what happens when you mix these two things, right? So now this thing says you can't get any information out of me. I'm a private company. And this one says, well, I don't know. I'm working with a private company, so I'm not sure how I'm going to really. It's like a puppet show. We're doing a puppet show here today. I'm not sure how we're going to.
I would say that you are quickly running into an era where the protections of the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act and all that stuff, they're going to become less and less useful. Because instead of meeting in secret and not telling you where the meetings are, what the agenda is, or, oh, that was an illegal executive session, or, oh, they accidentally formed a quorum, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a flood of unimaginable information generated in real time by 50 different AIs in 50 different agencies and 200 different companies with competing AIs and competing information, it's going to be a nightmarish hellscape of information from which one cannot tell fantasy from reality. And that is how we all drown.
Well, and let me go one step farther, John.
I'm sorry, I got to sneak off here. I've got to run to Oklahoma City and try to help a guy, but this has been really fun. I want to do this with y'all again, and your readers are really awesome, and I'm going to call that attorney, that one person I screenshotted their name. Y'all stay strong. Talk to your neighbors. Everybody love everybody.
Thanks, John.
Well, let me go one step farther real quick, Jenny. You know what I'm afraid of with Trump and this whole new cutting the government? Now, no one hates the government probably as much as you do. I mean, I hate everything about the government, literally. But let me tell you something. In my opinion, with Trump and Elon and Vivek and all these people coming in, I think we're looking at literally a privatization coup in this company. I know. You go start cutting every single one of all these huge departments. Let's just take something you're familiar with, Department of Education. You get rid of the Department of Education. Not that I'm for the Department of Education, not that I'm not for the whole deal. You get rid of that, you're going to lose that veil, at least that thin veil of public accountability somewhat in the deal. You get rid of them, guess what? The void is going to be filled with these massive private companies that are already lined up, ready to go give education, because the money's still going to be there. It's not like the money is going away. You may dissolve the department. The money's still going to be there. It's just going to be doled out on the private side. I mean, I see it just clear as day. I mean, we get rid of, we want to get rid of all these intelligence agencies. Okay, what's going to happen? Who's going to take their place? Now they're just going to be private. They're going to be contractors to the government with no accountability. That's what I see coming. It's a privatization coup that, I mean, I just think we're in trouble. I think we're in trouble. I think this deal that John's talking about, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Okay, I guess we're done for the day. We'll just sign off.
That's just me. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm way out there. Maybe there's like no way it's gonna. You let these private companies that literally worship the dollar. I mean, their only job is to return as much money as possible. That's it.
Stop the retirement plans for elected officials and see who starts running for office.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah,
that's exactly correct. I mean, that's 100%. But you see, most people don't know that. I'm not sure. I mean, I know Andy's been in this fight for a long time. She's been on here today, and I know so many of you people. I mean, Denise, so many of you who have been commenting. You guys are very into this and paying a whole lot of attention, and I think what we're going to have to do, somebody said something up here earlier. I think it was Steph who said something about here it is. She said, sending the links to the videos that to your federal House rep with a short note telling them they hold the purse to stop these subsidies. I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, I think, and I'm going to use something that happened to me yesterday. So yesterday, because I get press releases from the House and the Senate and the people who put them out frequently, I got one from Senator Bergstrom, and he talked about how he was going to try to lower the personal income tax for next year. And I thought, well, that's great, but let's start with property taxes. Why don't we nix property taxes? Because if we owned our own place and the government couldn't take it away from us, then at least, if we got in trouble with, something else, we'd have a place we could stay. Right. So, I said, hey, you guys might just write a little letter to him and just say, hey, thanks so much for this, but, let's try to do something about property tax. Well, I got a phone call from Jay Stiegel, and he was like, I don't know what you were doing there, but now I'm answering all of these emails, and I've been getting a whole bunch of emails from people about we need to stop the property tax, and you need to be better informed about this the property tax is in the state constitution. It's not something legislators can do anything about. So we're going to have Jay on our show on the 11th of next month to talk about that so that everybody can be informed about that. But the bottom line here was, and I told Jay, I was like, you should be happy you got all of these emails from people, because people are upset about this, and they want to know that their elected officials are going to do something about it, and they want them to know what's going on. So I mean, my spin on it was, okay, I didn't say the right thing, but at least people emailed, and now, you know, they can say hey, there are a lot of people in Oklahoma that are upset about property taxes. If that worked, why in the world would we not then email our senators and representatives about this stuff and let them know that we are on to what's going on, and we need to have them make it stop? And this is interesting. Oh, the crap about the Constitution. We can't change the Constitution, but the legislators can run SQ 833. I mean, that's a really good point, but I do think well, I guess that's true. We could ask the legislators. We don't have to run an initiative petition. We might be able to ask the legislators, Robert, you better come on the 11th and talk to Jay about that. I want to see that. I want to get into that discussion, because why can't legislators, why do we have to go out and get a referendum? Why can't the legislators put a state question on the ballot? That's a good question, because they did 833, and that was to change the Constitution, and they've done other ones to change the Constitution. Legislators can do that. We don't need to get a referendum to do that. So that's a good point. But the bottom line is this. Apparently, your letters and emails and calls are making a difference to legislators, because I got a call from one. So I would continue to make sure that you're in contact with your senators and your representatives on a constant basis. So much of this is coming from the federal government. However, we are a sovereign state, and I know that you will bump up against your elected representatives who will say, that's not true. We're subject to what the federal government says, and we have to follow those laws and rules first. Well, that's actually not accurate at all, but it's a good cop out for legislators who don't want to deal with it. I mean, literally, we are a sovereign state. So I don't understand that. Heather says 835 is coming up. What's that one? You might just throw that in there so I can. Do you know what it is, Michael?
No, I don't. But I was just laughing because, you know, whenever you talk about legislators and their job or doing this, and I always think about the story when you're talking to a legislator, asking what they're going to do, and they're just, well, I'm going to go in and write this law and this and this and this and this. You're like, what about, you know, your job's not to write laws. Your job is to protect our liberty. You know, that just hits me every time you say something like that, because it's so true. It's so true.
But I think that's the point. And somebody else made that point. One of our viewers made that point this morning, is the fact that, because we talked about that, so many of our legislators don't understand what's going on. They're not out in the boonies. They don't see what's going on. They don't stop to understand how this can be bad. They don't research everything that comes in front of them. We need to be proactive and be doing the research and handing it off to them and saying, hello, this is what we're doing. This is what's going on out here. Now that you know, figure out a way to make it stop.
Yeah.
So John Boy says HB 4118 did as much harm to the small independent farmer rancher as state question 833 would have. 833 just opened the door for more corporate and government over. That's very true. And HB 4118 was nothing but state question 777 that failed. Lovely. Yes, and the jungle primary would open primary voting. And we'll have to talk about that as that comes up. And Karen says, 100% they don't know. And I do think that that's true, because the one legislator I was talking to about the carbon capture place in Scheidler, he was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I didn't even know that was what that was about. So we we can't just elect these people and say, well, they've got it covered, because they don't. They've got so much going on. If we're not being proactive, I'm becoming wordless, so you'd better jump in.
Well, the good news is we have a platform. We can get information. And I mean, how many people knew this stuff before today? You know, not that many. You know, how many more people will know afterwards? And, you know, you always hear the old cliche, knowledge is power. Well, it really is. Yes, we're going to come across the right people at some point are going to hear whatever the different things are. And it's just a matter of getting the information out. We just got to continue to just keep pumping it out, you know, as best we can.
Well, and I will say, thanks to you viewers, thanks to you guys who are watching, you have made such a difference in I love Steph. You're the best for roping in the knowledge. You are hired, girl. I'm gonna call you. We're gonna work something out. That's awesome. Roping in the knowledge. I love that. But I was gonna say, so do you remember we had the show about Bullard and what's going on with our healthcare system?
Yeah.
Remember? Sooner Select. It used to be Sooner Care, and now it's Sooner Select. And it was all this privatization that Governor Stitt wanted. He fired 2 doctors on the healthcare board to get this. Okay. He's convinced that it's the greatest thing ever. Well, you and I know, because we've had David Bullard on and we had Salome Vaughn on, who talked about the fact that this is a nightmare. Doctors aren't getting paid. Clinics are closing. People aren't getting the health care that they need, all because of the fact that these private companies want to make money. Yeah. And I don't like the government doing things, but I have to say that at least the government was apparently doing a better job with Sooner Care than these private companies have been doing with Sooner Select. And that goes back to just what we were talking with John about with the wind farms and all of this green stuff. We're letting these private companies come in and take over, and what ends up happening is there's no reason for those people to worry about taxpayers, right? I mean, they don't care, even though they're getting public money. They're private organizations, and they don't have to do what the public or the public, like the healthcare authority, for example, is a public group. It has to do what the public. It has to be open to what the public does. So what ended up happening was our broadcast got Salome she was reached out to by the governor's office. So guys, you don't understand what power you have here. You viewers, you have so much power. You have the power to get this information out. And you did that with the Sooner Care, Sooner Select thing. It did make a difference. The governor's office did reach out. The show that we had with JJ on getting the governor to try to call for an investigation into DHS, that went viral on Twitter. You guys, we have this ability to do this, but you guys, you're doing your thing by tuning in and going with us on this journey and learning about these things. But now even reach out more to the people outside your realm and get these people to watch what we're doing, and don't ever forget to send it to your senators and your representatives, because this is the way we make a dent, and we are making a dent. Yeah. You're helping us make a dent. We just have to work harder at it.
Yes, ma'am.
So
aye, Captain.
Yeah, I don't want to be Captain Ahab, though. We don't want to go after the white whale. We want to, we want to do the right thing here. Okay. So guess what next week is?
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Yes. Next week is Thanksgiving. And so you and I are going to take a break over Thanksgiving week. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm going to replay, and I did have a list of what I was going to replay for next week. And I can tell you, in case you would like to know what it was. Oh, I can tell you what it was. I have a list. So I am going to replay Becky Pelham's interview with
Yeah.
us about what was going on in the schools. And if you missed the beginning part of the video, you might go back and watch that, because I talked about a few of the things that are happening that Ryan Walters is not doing in Oklahoma that we are becoming a problem. And so that kind of dovetails in with what Becky was talking about on our interview. So you want to tune in. If you didn't see that, again, tune in. It's a replay, but you can still watch it. Then we are also going to have on Friday, we're going to replay the flock camera study with Tom Gann.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a good one. And that's another one that went viral on YouTube and social media too. Oh, Heather says, please replay Julianne. You know what? We'll do that for Christmas, because we're going to take a couple of weeks for vacation around the Christmas week. So we'll replay some of Julianne's stuff there too. And don't forget, you can always go to our YouTube channel and to our Rumble channels. Everything that we do live downloads there and is parked. So you can always go back anytime you want and view them. We just like to make sure that something's running on Wednesdays and Fridays to condition you like lab rats to tune in on Wednesdays and Fridays when we're actually live. So anything before we get off of here today, Michael?
Well, no, because I don't want to be any more. I don't want to be any more depressing than what.
Yeah, we can't be depressed.
Than what I can be. But I just want to thank everybody. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Wish you a happy Thanksgiving, Jenny. You be out there with the farm animals, mingling, doing all your.
I'll have a video about the reprieve of the turkeys, because
there you go.
Oh, Heather says, good to know. I couldn't find it on Facebook. You're right. I think they do put it on Facebook, but it's really hard to scroll down through all of those videos. So just go to our YouTube channel, which
well,
is
let me okay. On YouTube, you have to go over to the little section that says live when you go to watch those. Otherwise, when you just go on there, you just see all the clips. So there's two different sections. There's the clips that Jenny makes, then there's all the lives, which are all the shows. So you got to go over to live and scroll down through that. And that's where all the full shows are.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm going to run through it. Here you go, Heather. I'm going to run through it so you can see it. So this is our YouTube channel. And so what it does is the one that's live sits right on the home. So we're live right here and it shows that. Then underneath here, where it says videos, these are just the clips that I put together that are really easy for people to share. But if you look up at the top, it says home, video, shorts, live. So if you click on the live, it will bring up all of the live. There's Julianne right there. Hi, Julianne. It brings up all of the videos that we have that have been live that are right here. So that's how you find them, Heather. So I hope that helps. We are Restore OK Public Ed on YouTube, but if you just Google Reclaim Oklahoma Parent Empowerment, you'll find it. So thank you so much. And thank you, Lisa. Everybody, it's so good to have happy Thanksgiving to all of you too. We will miss you. I know Michael and I will miss you for the Thanksgiving week, but it's going to be a great week to be with family. And I've got to get all the Christmas decorations put up since I'll be off my knee on the following Monday. So got to get work done around here. All right. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And Michael and I will see you again the first week of December. We'll be, can you believe it's already here? So don't know. All right. Have a great day. Have a great Thanksgiving. And we'll see you again in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye.